Big weekend for soccer fans in America. First, the U.S. women's team winning their first World Cup match against Vietnam. And then Lionel Messi making his MLS debut with the winning goal. Joining us to talk more about all of it, George Pyne, Bruin Capital founder and CEO. Good morning. Lots of folks watching soccer this weekend, or football, depending on where you're from, I guess, George. But tell us sort of how you think this changes the dynamic and how popular ultimately. I mean, is this the moment? I think we keep waiting for, I don't know, maybe it's just a series of inflection points. But boy, did this weekend feel like one.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a series of inflection points, starting with the Women's World Cup. I mean, 5.2 million people watched the match. Actually, 41,000 people attended in New Zealand. Women's soccer is very popular and expanding rapidly around the world. And I think the United States, with the best players in the world, will be no exception. And, of course, Friday night, Miami, Messi scoring the winning goal on a free kick in dramatic fashion, a sold-out electric environment. You know, these are big moments for soccer. And, of course, Messi is the greatest, or if not one of the greatest soccer players ever. 477 million social media followers, an iconic brand, and a great addition to the MLS.
So longer term, in terms of, I mean, now there's going to be questions about the valuations of these teams, how that changes, what you think happens. I mean, the TV piece of this is locked up by Apple for a while. I don't know if you think there's other opportunities for the MLS to do other things. Where does this all go?
Well, I think you're going to see this is going to be the decade of soccer in the United States. I mean, with the FIFA Club Championships coming in 2025, the World Cup coming in 2026, you've seen a massive appreciation in the value of these franchises. So I think the fundamentals for the MLS over the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very good. And again, the women are going to play a part in the game of soccer here in the U.S. So I think you're going to see a real expansion of soccer here in the next 4 or 5 years in a way that we hadn't seen. Very similar to when the World Cup came in the 1990s. There was a big push, but I think we're so much further ahead today. The sky's the limit for soccer.
George, there's a massive debate, as you know, about pay equity. We're talking about women's soccer, men's soccer. This is true in basketball, women's basketball. How do you think this all plays out, should play out?
I think you really have to look at the percentages that the men earn of the revenue, and I really think, in fairness, the women should have the same percentage. And I think over time it's going to play out that way. It seems fair to me and only right that the men's percentage of revenue is the same percentage as the women.
Separately, big headline last week, now 2 weeks ago, when Bob Iger made his comments about ESPN and trying to find a partner for ESPN. There are those that thought that perhaps a partnership could be with an Amazon, an Apple, or a media company. We've had some reporting from CNBC.com and Alex Sherman that some of that might actually be a partnership with one of the leagues, or maybe multiple leagues, as in the NBA and the NFL and possibly the NHL and others. If you were Bob Iger and you were thinking about this, what do you think they need to do? This is as they go direct to consumer as a streaming product.
Look, if I were Bob Iger, I'd realize I have a great asset in ESPN. As he says, it stands tall in these times. On the one hand, on the other hand, it's facing enormous headwinds with the transition from linear to streaming. And so he owns a publicly traded company, or runs one. He's got to find growth strategies. Like anybody else, you got to pivot. So where do I pivot? I pivot to capital partners. I pivot to people that can provide me content and distribution. And the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball both provide content and distribution for a new streaming world. And you got to look at that as well as other distribution partners. I don't think you can sit and do the same thing and hope that things get better. You're going to have to readjust and make some new bets.
Do you think, though, the leagues can effectively go into business with ESPN? I mean, they already are partners, of course, but the second you become an equity holder, does it change the dynamic with which you think about how to license your content to the other networks? Does it upset those arrangements? And is there more money ultimately in licensing to lots of folks than into going through one or two pipes, if you will?
I think that the leagues will always be licensing their content. There may be a narrow application where there's an equity opportunity. You know, in the case of baseball and the NBA, they're going to have to go in the streaming route to solve their regional sports network challenge in the future. So that may be an opportunity. In the case of the NFL, they're looking at what to do with Red Zone, their network, NFL network. But I think it'll be a narrow application from an equity standpoint because they're going to want to reserve the optionality from a general licensing standpoint.
I want to go back to that the pay equity thing, George, because I'm trying to figure out exactly what you said. It was a pretty good dodge, I think, because you sounded like you were fully in support of pay equity. How much revenue in either soccer or basketball does the WNBA or women's soccer make? As a percentage, what percentage of men is it? And are women significantly below as a percentage of that revenue, or is it just a fact of what the revenues are? They're so vastly different. What percentages?
Well, the revenues are different, and therefore what you have meaningfully different. I mean, meaningfully
like WNBA versus NBA. Give me an idea. Is it half?
More meaningfully. I mean, it's meaningfully billions of dollars of difference.
So then it's never going to be that people that want pay equity. You didn't say that you were for pay equity. Then it's like they should make half. Are you okay saying that?
I'm not going to get into what somebody should or shouldn't
make. I heard. I heard you weren't going to. I heard. I like that.
WNBA revenue is between 180 and 200 million. NBA revenue is 10 billion.
So you better not hope that it's based on revenue, or it's not.
It's right. The only thing you could hope for.
So you're saying it should be, you want to pay them less. So then you're saying your answer would pay them. Yeah, your answer would pay them less because they make a lot more than.
I would pay them 50. If the NBA gets 50% of the revenue, the players and the WNBA players should get 50% of the revenue, and that it's a percentage of the revenue, not in the quality of the pay.